the best boot hill player, the best Seela player, hell, even the best Firefly player? To all those questions, the answer is always me. That's why I'm the most qualified to make a tier list on all the limited DPSs. As to why I'm only rating limited DPSs, it's because supports are always good and sustains are always unnecessary, leaving us with the DPSs. The tier list will be made with perfect gameplay and optimization in mind, so stuff like ease of use is not a factor. Everything else is in play. In terms of weightage, MOC is the highest, while AS is the lowest, with PF being the middle ground. If you want to pull any S tier DPSs that might be on banner, here's how you can do so easier. Introducing Loot Bar, the best platform for recharging your Honkai Star Rail accounts. With Loot Bar, you can get safe transactions, incredible discounts, and super fast delivery. The top-up process is quite simple. Let me show you how easy it is. Just go to lootbar.gg, enter your account UID, select your recharge amount, and you're done. Today I am buying 3,280 shards, which normally costs $50 but is reduced to $40.50, so you get to save 23%. Now let's see if I received the shards. Look, I've received the shards in literally 10 seconds. This service is extremely fast and hassle-free. All recharging goes through official partnership routes with Hoyoverse, so users get to enjoy all official Hoyoverse recharge events. Even bigger content creators like Dukaja, David Times, and Toshi use Loot Bar for recharging purposes. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and join Loot Bar today. Don't forget to take the 8% off coupon for new users to get a total of 23% off. Anyways, starting off our tier list in S tier, the strongest DPS in the game at this moment in time is the Herda. She's the Seela of the next generation, meaning she has dominance across all modes. She may not be as dominant in pure single target content, but stuff like True Sting or Legion, where they summon things or shared HP bosses like Choir and Banana, are where she excels in. This doesn't mean she can't zero cycle stuff like Hule at a low cost though, as she can still do so. These are her three main feats, which I'll upload sooner or later. One of those breaking Facial's record, which is kinda ridiculous even if she's getting showed. She doesn't need BP Light Cone to do well, unlike what some people are showing. Next up is Facial. This DPS needs no introduction. I'm pretty sure you already know why she's here. She's the strongest MLC DPS on most bosses, only being beaten on some by the Herda. She's also the most consistent DPS in AS due to Toughness Shred, being able to score pretty well at a low cost on every boss, and 0 AV at max cost on every boss including Banana and Sunday. Contrary to popular belief, she's also decent in PF when used with Mini Herda, which is the standard after PF revamp. After that, we have Seela, the DPS with the strongest legacy in the game. Strongest in MLC from 1.0 to Facial's release in 2.5, and the strongest in PF from 1.6 all the way to its revamp in 2.6. This doesn't mean she has fallen off. She's able to 2-cost 0-cycle current True Sting with a Sparkle, and no Robin, which means you can run Facial or the Herda at max potential on the other side. She's also able to 2-cost 0-cycle PF with Mini Herda, although her solo performance has not been that good after the revamp. The True Sting feats upscales everything else though. Like I've been saying for ages, she can 2-cost 0-cycle anything except shared HP bosses, and 3-cost 0-cycle Hule with Robin. And this feat, when it gets released, will prove it because True Sting has like 3.4 million HP. From a leaked interview I had with Hoyoverse, it seems that they released shared HP bosses solely to nerf Seela, as she was making Acheron look bad for multiple patches with her 1-cost 0-cycle on Aventurine. If Choir and Banana didn't have shared HP, she would be 0-cycling them at like 1 to 2 cost too, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. Her performance is tied to how much you can optimize her. Skill ceiling means everything in this game. Finishing off S tier, there's Acheron. Acheron is here because she is able to perform well on any game mode to a decent degree without any overlap in support usage since she uses two Nihility units. Unlike what people have been claiming, support overlap is not a hidden meta and is actively being used to grade units since forever. It is also why E2 Acheron is suboptimal as Shell starts stealing supports. She also got buffed by RMC, leading her to do a 3-cost 0 cycle on True Sting, which is pretty ridiculous. Next up is the A tier. These DPSs are good but not the best of the best. They're good enough to carry you in-game and 0 cycle, so you can consider building them. The strongest A tier DPS is Boot Hill, whether it's blast or single targets, as long as it's not full on 5 targets, he'll do well in MLC. He's even usable in PF now after Fugue's release, which solves his only weakness. Although he isn't as good as the DPSs above him in that department, that's why he's down here. His AS performance is similar to his MLC performance. The DPS I'll be talking about next might or might not be better than Boot Hill. I'm putting her here for safety reasons. Aglia is the most comfortable DPS to use, although her ceiling isn't too high. If you optimize her action counts, you'll have a good time. I can't elaborate too much due to her not being released and me not knowing much about her either. I'll elaborate more on her in her dedicated video. Rappa is another DPS that belongs in this tier. She got buffed in a major way after Fugue released, even matching Boot Hill on some MOCs that aren't physical weak. But her weakness of high toughness enemies with no imaginary or fire weakness will hold her back in MOC. So she's below him even though she's way stronger in PF. As we all know, strength in MOC is more important than PF. And that's why, to end off A tier, we have Dr. Ratio. He fell off this far because while he's OP with Mota to help him, he isn't as strong in hypercarry situations, which is why his performance is worse than some other DPSs on True Sting, as it is not a pure single target boss and he couldn't use Mota. His PF performance is passable with Mini Herda's FUA team, so it's not like he's useless there either. He's basically a budget version of Facial in all 3 modes since you get him for free. Starting from B tier, I'll be skimming through these DPSs faster. First, Yun Li is here even though she has comparable performance on some bosses to the top tiers due to inconsistencies. Even when she's being shielded like on Hule, it's not like she's the best DPS there either. She's tied with Acheron who is full AoE, so that's why she's not high up. In other modes, it's about the same. She got shielded in 2.6 DOT PF, so people used her often. But now she's not as good. Same thing with Kafka boss in AS. Now for Fireflop, the worst garbage in HSR history. Regrettably, she managed to crawl from C tier to B tier with Fugue, but the reason she isn't as good as the other big DPSs is because of her over-reliance on HMC. With the release of RMC and how broken she is for the Herda, Acheron and many other future DPSs, it is impossible to hold on to HMC. We'll be getting new MC paths sooner or later too, which makes it even harder. Reliance on Robin isn't even half as bad as reliance on HMC. Other break DPSs like Boot Hill can substitute for Bronya or Sunday, but Fireflop is stuck. After that, we have the Xianzhou trio. Jingyuan, Imbibitor Lune, and Jingliu. Jingyuan actually got slightly stronger than the other two due to Sunday, while the other two fell off considerably. It's crazy people thought they were stronger than Zila in 1.x patches. I originally got good at the game to prove my agenda that Zila is the best DPS and way better than Imbibitor Lune and Jingliu. It's And it's funny that it has always been the case. People even did 1-cost 2-man 0 Psycho with Zila back in the days. My knowledge was just too low at the time to properly clown on these two DPSs. Now it's very obvious Zila is better than Imbibitor Lune and Jingliu. But yeah, all three Xianzhou characters are right next to each other, ending off B tier. Now for the unviable DPSs, we got the Erudition duo, Argentine and Jade. Argentine is ridiculously broken in PF, being the only hypercarry unit to be able one cost 0 cycle PF, by virtue of the Herda not being able to be used without eruditions. But the thing about these two units is that they are better off used in the Herda team, and they're mediocre or downright bad in most MOCs, except for a select few. Another factor dropping DPSs is if they're better off as supports, and Jade especially is way better as a sub DPS or support than building a hypercarry team around her. That's why they're down here. You're reducing your account strength by building hypercarry teams off of them, when they're much better used in another scenario. These are by no means bad units. I would put their value higher than Fireflop, for example. Now, after Sunday's buff, Blade is still in C tier, but at least he isn't the worst DPS anymore. When a HP buffer comes, he should be at least Xingyuan level or above. The last two and the only ones in D tier are DPS Kafka and Black Swan. Kafka can be used as a DPS when used with Jiaotu and is actually stronger than Black Swan when there's no wind weakness. But these two DPS are incredibly weak due to the lack of attention for DOT comps. I've heard leakers say there'll be many nihilities in mid to late 3.x, something like Cypher for example. So they will rise, trust the process, unlike Fireflop who already hit her ceiling. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the tier list, then remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.